Hello, everyone. It is a very special bonus episode today of Locked On Canadiens. We are going to find out just how smart my hockey brain is as we're talking Habs, trades, moves, and everything else from about the last 10 years and more inside today's show.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of Locked On Canadiens. I did promise this after I had to miss an episode because my internet on Wednesday night was more messed up than Mike Hoffman's face after AJ Greer got finished with him. This is Locked On Canadiens. We are your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, and I am your host. I am Scott Mellon. I have a very special guest who has agreed to play Quizmaster for us today, because we were planning this out. And this idea came to fruition late on a Friday night. I was on the Sick podcast with Matt O'Hayan, and we were talking about the 2013 NHL entry draft, and they were shocked that I was able to remember who was picked and who was signed in that offseason. And at that point, I contacted our guest today, Ian Boisvert, at Maybe It's Ian on Twitter, to help formulate a quiz of sorts for this. We're going to find out just how much I do remember and how bad I might actually be at Habs trivia. But before we dive into all of that, Ian, thank you so much for making the time. I know it is Friday. It is sunshiny and 50 degrees in Buffalo. So we are planning, we're recording this early so we can get out and enjoy some of the nice sunshine or video games, whatever we feel like today.
Yeah, it's funny. I was sitting down and setting things up, and I was like, this is the first time I think I've done this where it's still light outside.
It's a very weird feeling. It's like I'm used to getting home and I'm like, I got to take the dog out before it gets too dark, and she gets spooked by all the shadows, and it's like it's 20 after 6 and the sun's out and it's halfway decent and it's not raining. I'm unfamiliar with all of this. It's been such a long winter. So, Ian, you said we've got what, like 8 or 9 questions piled up for this today?
Yeah, let me set this up. 9 questions, 18 points total. So that some of them have multiple parts that you'll have to see how many you can collect. The rules here were I tried to stay within the last 10 years or so. One question pushes that a lot further. We'll see if you can figure that one out. But it's all players who were traded here, traded away from Montreal, drafted, signed, anything of the sort. So there's a good mixed bag here. I think I did my best to spread things out, and we'll see how you do.
Well, this should be interesting because I, as a master of useless information, this should be right up my alley here. I'm no Steve Dangle when it comes to hockey trivia, at least not yet. So let's dive right into this here. Ian, what is our first question of the day?
All right. On December 5th, 2015, this undrafted college forward scored his first NHL goal in his first NHL game. He signed his 2-year entry-level deal before the 2014-15 season.
That'd be Daniel Carr.
Correct. Do you for some bonus points, do you know who assisted on that goal?
Oh God, because that was he played. And here's the thing: is I'm pretty sure I remember the team he was playing against. They were playing Carolina, were they not?
Yep. And he scored. It was his first shift on his first shot.
So I want to say he's probably playing middle six at that time. Oh man, because he played so well for what would have been the Ice Caps at the time there. I want to say, so it was in 2015, and at that time, Michel Therrien was still the head coach of the team.
Oh yeah,
David Desharnais would have been playing with Max Pacioretty. Was Thomas Plekanec the one who assisted on his goal?
Plekanec is not in on this one. This one he was a fourth liner at this point. So his line mates were Christian Thomas and Brian Flynn. Like those are peak guys.
Oh man. Christian Thomas famously received in a trade for Danny Cristo, who famously was known for being so drunk he took his shoes off to walk home and gave himself frostbite at the University of North Dakota.
Nice.
A real winner of a person
Classic
there.
stuff. All right, well, you're off
Classic
to a
guy.
good start. Daniel Carr was the correct answer. We're going to move on from that one. On March 5th, 2014, at the trade deadline, the Montreal Canadiens acquired Thomas Vanek and a 5th-round pick from the New York Islanders in exchange for a 2nd-round pick and a prospect. Who's the prospect?
Sebastian Kohlberg.
Yeah, and I was like, even at the time of that trade, I was like, this seems like larceny for the Canadiens.
It absolutely
ended up
was.
being that way. Yeah,
And
he played 87 AHL games. That's it.
And I liked Sebastian Kohlberg too a lot, but he was one of those who would become the Martin Revi era of prospects.
Yeah, Tim
Great
Bozon.
World Juniors, and then just nothing.
Yeah.
Tim Bozon had a reason. He almost died.
Yes.
So
yeah,
like
he was very ill. But like I think of that entire like prospect group as like having all this promise, and then for one reason or another, none of them ended up panning out.
My favorite part is I can look up the tweets from that day because I was still running for Eyes on the Prize at the time, and I'm go, please don't trade Beaulieu or Tenorti for Thomas Vanek, and realizing now, yeah, that would have been fine if you traded them for
Either
Thomas
of those would have
Vanek.
also been fine.
Yeah, in hindsight.
Yeah, of course. All right, we're off to a good start. Those were some easy ones. This one I think is going to be a little tougher. This is the one that stretches that timeline quite a bit. Historically, Montreal has not had great luck signing unrestricted free agents. Since the year 2000, only 2 unrestricted free agents the Canadiens signed in free agency have led the Canadiens in scoring at any point. Name them.
Oh, man. So an unrestricted free agent leading the Canadiens in scoring.
It's happened twice.
Oh,
in 23 years. It's very sad.
One of these feels like Alexander Radulov, but like Max Pacioretty had a big year that year too, which makes me think it's not Alexander Radulov.
You would be correct. It is not Alexander Radulov, who I own a jersey of.
I don't think it was Tyler Toffoli either, because Nick Suzuki was here and would have led the team in scoring that year, correct?
I'll lead you there. That was Tyler Toffoli. One of them was him in that
wow.
Canada division season. Yeah, and like he was very good that year. Toffoli or Suzuki was also like he had 40 some odd points in 56 games. Like he was legitimate that year.
Not a 1C. Not a 1C. If you ask.
Not at all. There's one more. This one stretches it.
And the thing is, it's not Alex Tanguay because they traded for Alex Tanguay. They didn't sign Alex. Is it Alex Kovalev?
No, they traded for Kovalev too. He was he was a Ranger.
Yeah. Oh man. How far back are we stretching here?
Well, the front end of this was the year 2000, and I'll say it was the 2001-2002 season.
Oh dear God. Yeah. Oh man. Did this person play for the team before?
No.
So it's not Vincent.
No, he wasn't
Dumpoos.
like a 93 return.
Okay, so it's not Vincent Dumpoos then. Yeah, man. Forward or defense? Which
Forward,
I can't.
Thankfully, although that era of Canadians was pretty lame, it could have been a defenseman, honestly.
Signed as a UFA that led the team in scoring in the 2001-2002 season, which would have been the year they played the Bruins in round 1.
Yeah, was that the Theodore year?
The most unjust Hart Trophy of all time.
Yeah. The one that was robbed from Jerome McGinley. Yeah.
It wasn't Michael Ryder because they drafted Michael Ryder. It wasn't Mike Ribeiro because they drafted Mike Ribeiro.
He did lead a season in scoring around that time, and I checked, and no, he was drafted by the Canadiens.
Oh my God. And this does stretch it further than I thought. I thought like 06, 07, like stretching.
No, I mean, it's not exactly like the Canadiens draft particularly well. It's just, I think they sign free agents even worse.
Oh, well, we could spend an entire episode on that.
Yeah.
I have a name. It's not Steve Beijan. I don't know why that's the one coming to the forefront of my brain, and it's too early to be Robert Lang, who was also, I'm pretty sure, acquired in a trade.
Yeah, I don't remember
how much of a guy is this guy?
I think he's a peak guy. I think like those early years, like he was a guy. So there are going to be people listening to that who like, I don't understand the thing they just said. Like they just said guy a whole bunch, and that was supposed to help him understand the question.
And I actually don't think I know this one because I'm not and my hands are here. My phone is here. My
Yeah, well,
phone is off.
the honor system is in play here, but I trust you. All right, I'm
And
going to give it to you here. So Tyler Toffoli was correct in 2021. Yannick Perreault was
the
the other.
face-off wizard
Yep,
himself,
he led the
Yannick
team in
Perreault.
scoring in 2001, 2002.
Well, I'm pretty sure Koivu was injured at that point in time, correct?
Correct. All of every season around that is either Koivu or there was the odd Ribeiro season, but that one year was the Yannick Perreault year.
Well, the good news is that I've only missed one so far, and we have more
Correct.
questions coming up in our next segment here. But first, today's bonus episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. And with the NCAA tournament heating up, it is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And all new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. And that's in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to threes drained, or combine everything into a same game parlay to earn more money on your bets back. Plus, you can go now, sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon for a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. And remember, make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA and us here at Locked On. And as always, I am here to remind you, please bet responsibly whenever gambling on sports. We are back with Are You Smarter Than a Caffeine Addicted podcast host. I am, of course, Scott Matlin. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend at Maybe It's Ian on Twitter, Ian Boisvert, host of the Build podcast. Subscribe to the Build. If you don't, you're wrong, and I will break your legs. So, Ian, what else do we have? I won't break anyone's legs. I promise.
Yeah, that's a good legal disclaimer.
The lawyer in the other room is currently going, no, don't do this.
It's just Walter White in the car just screaming, no!
Yes, exactly. So,
all right, we'll take the temperature back down a little bit because I think this question is a little bit easier, but it's, again, peak guys. So keep that in mind. Mark Bergevin made 2 trades in the 9 days between November 11th and November 20th, 2014. Travis Moen and Rennie Bourque were shipped out. Who did Montreal get in those 2 trades?
Oh, man. Rennie Bourque brought back. Oh, this is right on the tip of my tongue, too.
1 point in 5 games with the Canadiens is the person that came back.
And Travis Moen got traded for Sergei Gonchar.
Correct. Yep. They got a Hall of Famer for Travis Moen, which is hilarious.
Who went to Dallas, yeah. And that was the year after they traded Eric Cole, who was washed to Dallas, for the retread of Michael Ryder.
Yeah.
Rennie Bourque, because Rennie Bourque was playing for the Bulldogs at the time. Oh God,
did he cleared waivers?
Yeah, because no one wanted his contract.
I mean, yeah, that tracks. I shouldn't have been all that shocked at that, honestly.
And he was he was way too good for the AHL. Oh God, because he got shipped west, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He got traded for Brian Allen.
Correct, you got it.
Oh,
1 point in 5 games for the Montreal Canadiens.
And then he also became a Hamilton Bulldog and ended the season with a broken foot for the Hamilton Bulldogs, who, unsurprisingly, missed the playoffs. So
I remembered the Brian Allen period being a little bit longer. I was shocked that he only played 5 games. Legitimately shocked.
Well, and that's the thing, is that season was weird because they had Sergei Gonchar anchoring their power play, and it leads to one of my favorite clips in recent Habs history. Is in a game against the Leafs. There's a scrum breaking out, and Sergei Gonchar and Olli Jokinen come together, and he just looks at him and goes, "Sergei, we're too old for this."
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'm like, which now you remembered, Olli Jokinen was a Toronto Maple Leaf for a long time, apparently. So
yeah.
What a weird, good old waffle man.
Well, that'll tie into this next question nicely. There's a draft-related question. At the 2014 NHL entry draft, the Canadiens traded up in the 3rd round to draft defenseman Brett Lernout, 73rd overall. To do so, they traded their 3rd round pick, the 87th overall pick, which turned into Anton Carlson, and their 4th round pick, 117th overall, which turned into this current Toronto Maple Leaf.
Current Toronto Maple Leaf. Was this player drafted by Toronto or another team?
Another team. So
Is it
that trade with Brett, I'll give you this. That trade with Brett Lernout, they traded those picks with Arizona.
that pick didn't become Alex Kerfoot, did it?
No, not Alex Kerfoot. Was Alex
So
Kerfoot? I think he was an undrafted guy.
I
Was he an
thought
undrafted guy out of college?
I'm not sure because I know he was originally a Colorado Avalanche player. He signed
Yep.
when they were at the like deep depression stage, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if that was okay. So this player played for the Leafs. That pick was traded to Arizona?
Other way around. Arizona made the pick, and the player now plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh man, there's so many peak guys in Arizona in this era that like defenseman or forward.
He's a forward.
He's a forward currently playing for the Leafs, not their AHL affiliate. Currently playing for the Leafs.
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
All right, so it's not Matthews, it's not Marner, it's not Nylander, it's not Tavares because none of them were drafted by Arizona
or in the third round.
I thought the
or
pick
fourth
was
round, fourth round.
Okay,
yeah, fourth rounder.
It's not Pierre Engvall because he was a Toronto draft pick.
I think he's gone now. Didn't he get moved to the
Oh
Islanders?
yeah, he's an Islander now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Lou retread.
Oh man. Oh, why is this sitting again right at the forefront of my brain that I know this Toronto lineup? It's Michael Bunting. It's Michael Bunting.
Yeah, it's ancient Michael Bunting. Correct.
Wow, I can't believe a 37-year-old got drafted in 2014. That's wild.
And with a Canadiens pick, that's shocking to me that Michael Bunting was drafted with a Montreal Canadiens draft pick.
I was trying to think of like former Coyotes who became Leafs, and then I was like, Nick Ritchie came to the front of my mind. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that went the other way around too.
Correct.
And I was like, okay, there we go.
Yeah. All right, sticking with the Coyotes here.
Oh.
On January 15th, I didn't write the year for some reason, so just think about it. The Canadiens, Predators, and Coyotes pulled off a 3-team trade that saw NHL All-Star John Scott land in a Habs uniform. Montreal traded away 2 players in that deal, and they acquired John Scott along with 1 more player. Can you name the 2 players Montreal traded away and the second player Montreal got in return?
Montreal traded away Jared Tenorti, who was then subsequently suspended for PEDs to Arizona.
Correct.
And I believe it was Stefan Elliott, who they had acquired to make this work and traded him to Arizona and got Victor Bartley in return.
So you're right on Tenorti and Bartley. This was a wild trade because you did get a part of the trade right. Stefan Elliott went to Nashville. There is a Stefan in this trade. It's just not Stefan Elliott.
Is it Stefan Matteau?
Nope.
Oh my God.
I couldn't believe that there were 2 Stefans in this trade and nobody mentioned it back in the day.
Like it's Stefan. It's not. Oh man.
It's spelled the exact same way.
Oh God. What the hell? Because I thought for sure you were going to trick me with the Stefan Elliott part of this. Like, so the Habs, so this was someone in their system then.
Yeah. To my knowledge, did not have an NHL like career. He didn't in Montreal, at least. I don't know if he figured it out elsewhere.
This is going to kill me now because I'm like, I thought, oh man. Because it's not Stefan Matteau. Is Stefan their last name then?
No, it's his first name.
It's not Stefan
Yeah,
Robida.
Patrick Stefan. No, it's not Stefan Robida.
Oh man. I didn't know they had someone else named Stefan. And it's Stefan Fournier. There it is.
There you go. Stefan
former Halifax
Fournier,
Moosehead. Yes.
Yep, that is right. Yeah, that trade's still wild to look back at, especially like how cryptic Mark Bergevin was when he said, like, there's a reason I traded Jared Tenorti and you'll know about it.
Yeah, because he was getting juiced up, apparently.
Allegedly.
Can we just take a second before we get to the next question here? Because this is my show and I'll do what I want.
Yeah,
Did the Canadiens win the John Scott trade?
I mean, what did Victor Bartley turn into?
An AHL defenseman who broke his foot playing for the Ice Caps. No goals and like 13 assists in like 30-something games.
Tight. I don't know. I don't think they lost, but I don't think anybody won this trade.
I was going to say, like, the Ice Caps got John Scott, which definitely helped like their attendance, and that was the year they made the playoffs too. That was 2016,
Yep.
and he was a great sport, like all things considered. That he got screwed royally out of this, but like Stefan Elliott really didn't turn into anything. Jared Tenorti is still kicking around, which credit to him. Stefan
Yeah.
Fournier kicks around like the ECHL from time to time. The Canadians got free press out of John Scott being an all-star, and like so did
Yeah.
the Ice. Like, if you can find a winner in that trade, I guess it's the Montreal Canadiens.
Sure.
But like, congratulations, you won. Here's your prize, a box of rusty knives or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny you mentioned Tenorti still around. Like the Penguins are dealing with goaltending health at the moment, and I saw Dustin Tokarski's name again, and I lost my mind. I could not believe that guy turned 4 playoff games, in which I think 3 of them were losses, into a fantastic NHL career.
He's been like bouncing around. Like he was with, I want to say, the Flyers for a hot minute, and he's been in the Penn system. And he's been like a damn good AHL goalie like an elite AHL goalie the entire time. Like it's absolutely wild.
Yeah. All right, we got 3 more questions. Let's do this one. At the 2021 NHL Draft, the Canadiens traded their 4th round pick to the Minnesota Wild, so the Wild could move up and select Josh Pillar. Montreal acquired the 150th overall pick, a 5th rounder, and the 214th overall pick, a 7th rounder. The 7th rounder turned into Joe Verbetic. Who did Montreal pick with the 5th rounder in that trade?
5th round pick in 2021. Let's see here. Because I was going to say this was in that weird run of like 7th round picks and everything. It wasn't Raphael Harvey-Pinard because he was a 6th round pick, I believe. 2021 5th round pick. Is this player currently signed to the Canadiens in any capacity?
I believe he has signed his entry-level deal. I could be wrong, but I think I remember that happening.
An entry-level deal. So this is a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick?
This is a 5th rounder, the 150th overall pick.
5th round, 150th overall. Are they currently playing in the AHL?
No, they are still eligible for Major Junior. I'll give you that. They're in Major Junior.
5th round, 150th overall, still in Major Junior. They're not out west because the only one out there is Jared Davidson. It's not Beck Guindon. It's not Logan Mailloux.
Nope.
It's not Riley Kidney. It's Joshua Waugh.
Correct. Joshua Waugh it is.
I was like, why is this not clicking for me? I'm like, he signed his entry-level deal, but he's not playing, failing to realize that.
He did sign his entry-level deal, though, right? Like, yes. I remember that happening. That wasn't a fever dream that really happened.
No, he and Kidney signed not that far apart. I forgot because Waugh is so high up the prospect list now that him being a 5th round pick just does not, and also 2021 is only 2 years ago, but feels like forever at this point.
Right.
Like,
I triple checked that year because I literally couldn't believe that he was picked that recent. Yeah, so that's a good one. All right, 2 more. On April 12th, 2021, Montreal acquired defenseman Eric Gustafson from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2022 7th round pick. So Montreal sent a 2022 7th to the Philadelphia Flyers. Montreal ended up reacquiring that pick and using it to draft this player.
So it would have been a 2022 7th round pick.
Correct.
Which they used. I was at this draft. I should definitely know who the hell they picked. It's not Emmett Croteau, is it?
It's not Emmett Croteau. The Canadiens and the Flyers have a history of just throwing their 7th round picks back and forth at each other.
Yeah, and the Canadiens ended up with Jake Evans and Caden Primo out of it, which is wild.
Yep. I think another one was Raphael Harvey-Pinard. I think he was one of those 7th rounders that they threw back and forth at each other for 2 years. 2022
7th round pick. It's not Emmett Croteau then. The only other name that I can think of off the top of my head would be Petteri Nurmi.
That is incorrect. It is Miguel Turigny.
Yes, the one playing over in was playing in Slovakia. I forgot he was another overage pick because they did the whole
Right.
Harvey Pinard thing again with a dude who was dominating the queue, and he didn't
Right.
stick around North America. He went to Slovakia to play for the year.
Right. All right. Last one. This one has 6 points in it.
Oh,
So
Jesus
we'll see how you
Christ.
do. The start of free agency in 2014 was busy for the Canadiens. Montreal finalized 6 contracts at the opening of free agency on July 1st. 5 of them are UFAs and 1 is an entry-level contract. How many of them can you name?
Oh,
This is
okay.
2014. We just saw them go to the Eastern Conference Final. And
So
this is them gearing up.
So 2014, the start of that, their first round draft pick that year would have been Noah Juleson, correct?
That sounds right.
Well, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure because he played in Everett and they would have probably signed him to his entry level deal because he's the first round pick. Is he not one of those options?
No, so these were deals that were just finalized at per cap friendly on July 1st. So free agency opens and they put pen to paper. There are 6 contracts that Mark Bergevin signed that day.
All right, so it wasn't Gallagher and Galchenyuk because they were still on their entry level contracts at that point in time.
Correct.
Wasn't Carey Price. Carey Price was still in the middle of his longer term contract that he got at the end of the 2012 season.
That sounds right. Yeah.
It wasn't so because 14-15 is the year they lost to the Lightning in that second round
Yep.
after Carey Price carried the team all damn year.
Yeah. And
Six,
they couldn't score against Anderson in the first round. They barely got out of that once
yeah,
they
because they
switched
started
from,
the Hamburglar for 2.5
right, once they
games.
switched from the Hamburglar, they I mean, if they played all those games with Hammond, I don't think Montreal wins that series.
What? Oh wow! It's like I'm trying to remember who would have been unrestricted coming off that team in 2014 that they would have re-signed. It wasn't Lars Eller because he was still
under contract.
under contract and an entry level deal for someone that they would have probably picked in. Wow, you picked a damn good one. So they probably, if I remember this year correctly, they had a new backup goalie because I don't think it was Peter Budaj anymore. Which I think the next one after him would have been Al Montoya.
He was not signed. There is a goalie in this list, but it is not like I don't even know if he's Guy. I had to go look and make sure that this was real, and it was real. So
Oh man, wow. You really put a hard one right at the end here as we've got to wrap the show.
yeah. So just think I'll give you this. There were 2 defensemen, a goalie, and 3 forwards.
So 2 defensemen, 3 forwards. Was one of the forwards the entry level contract or no?
Yep, one of the forwards is an entry level.
Was that Arturi Lehkonen?
It was not Arturi Lehkonen.
Because no, was he that? No, or was I? Wow. Why is this season the one that I cannot picture in my mind? I know all the points that happened because the Carey Price won every award under the sun, and now I can't think of anyone. Did this entry level contract go on to play in the NHL that year?
I do not believe they have played in the NHL to this point.
Oh wow, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, but you've covered the AHL teams.
So it's Martin Revi then.
It's not Martin Revi.
Am I getting warmer or colder on this?
It's tough to tell. I'll tell you that one is Jeremy Gregoire.
Oh Jesus Christ!
So that's an awful one.
Oh wow.
One of the defensemen was returning from the run.
So that run, it would have been because Beaulieu played that time, Tenorti played in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Subban didn't get his big contract until the next year when it kicked in, because then they traded him.
Yeah.
Andrei Markov was still under contract.
I believe so.
Rafael Diaz got traded already.
Yep. Yeah. Dale Weiss is already. Weiss mania is in full swing at this point.
Was it Francis Bouillon?
No, it is not Francis Bouillon. Although that's a good one because he did come back, and I think He played that 2014 run, and I think I remember him being there the next year.
For a little bit. I can't remember if he did like Buchanan's and we played a handful of games like, I'm out.
Yeah.
On that team. So both these defensemen played in that cup, in that run to the Eastern Conference.
Just one of them. One of them was a UFA who came from elsewhere.
Was a UFA that came from elsewhere. Because I was going to say Alexei Emelin was still there, but I think he was still under. Was he one of the ones who got extended?
I don't think so. I mean, at that point, like Emelin was one of those guys who like they were like showing the record with him in and out of the lineup. Like he was sort of like integral to that team.
Well, yeah, because he blew out his knee again, trying to hit Milan Lucic here. So, why am I struggling so hard to figure this out?
All right, you give up?
I do.
All right. So the returning defenseman was the Dreamweaver, Mike Weaver.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he came back for one more year. I couldn't believe that had happened because I know they traded. I think they traded. Was it George Peros? They sent George Peros to Florida, and they
got George Peros from Florida. So here's the thing that you're gonna laugh at me for this. They traded George Peros for George Peros came from Florida for a 7th round pick and prospect Philippe Lefebvre.
Oh, nice.
Going into the 2014 season.
Gotcha. Okay.
They traded a 5th for like Mike Weaver, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Mike Weaver. Tom Gilbert was the other UFA defenseman. I remember he was like a big analytic darling. Like everyone loved this guy, and I watched him. I was like, I don't get it. Like I don't understand what this guy does.
Well, yeah, because Michel Therrien was coaching the Canadiens at that point.
It's also true. Like it was not put in a situation to succeed. The very short-lived Yuri Seacatch era began that UFA July opening. Like that's this is a cruel question. I don't know if you've ever watched the bar down quizzes, but this is like the boss question. Like this is an unfair one.
Because I forgot, because he then, after having all these effort games, got traded for Devontae Smith-Pelly, who
he had some good playoff performances in Montreal. I remember. I fondly look back at the DSP era.
The Laval Rocket legend Devontae Smith-Pelly.
Yeah, for sure.
There's one more name on here, and how on a scale of guy to household name, where does this person land?
Somewhere in the middle of those two things. Yeah. He's now an assistant coach in the NHL, if that helps.
Oh, dear God.
that shouldn't help at all, because like that's just the route they all go at this point.
just a name. What team is he an assistant coach with?
Toronto, I believe.
It's Manny Malhotra.
Correct. Manny Malhotra. I'm going to give that one to you because this is a tough question.
I forgot about that offseason where it's like Manny Malhotra is going to help them win faceoffs, and Tom Gilbert's going to analytic the hell out of this. And then the Canadians were just like, "Our Carey Price just bails us out for 65 games."
I went to a game that season because I think that was also the Danny Briere season, if I remember correctly. Because then they traded. No, I think
Danny Briere was the previous year.
That's
because
right.
He scored the series clinching goal against the Bruins.
That's right.
On a breakaway.
I went to a game that season on Long Island. They won 1-0 in overtime, and Carey Price had the shutout, and it was one of the most unwatchable hockey games I've ever seen in my entire life. And the last player here, it was a goaltender, Joey McDonald.
Oh my God,
that's just a made up name. Joey McDonald. If you're listening, I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with your work, as Shaq would say.
I am, because he was a Hamilton Bulldogs goaltender for a long while there. And I want to say he ended up getting traded at some point again, because he was an older guy and he went back to the Flames organization where he was their NHL backup for a hot minute. And it was an ugly era of goaltenders for the Habs AHL affiliate there until Dustin Tokarski got back. So
yeah.
All right.
Well, that was it. That's the end of trivia. You got 11 out of 18. I think you did pretty well. There were some really rude questions that I threw in there because, I was having a good time just looking things up. Just thinking about Yannick Perreault again really just got my blood boiling. It was great.
Jeremy Gregoire, a name that I'm like. Here's the thing: is familiar with Jeremy Gregoire. I watched a lot of AHL games. Completely forgot that they would have given him an entry level deal because that. Oh man. You could have talked about Jack Nevins or Connor Crisp or someone, and I would have probably understood.
There was almost a Torrey Mitchell question thrown in here.
Greenfield Park native Torrey Mitchell.
Love Torrey Mitchell. Him and Brian Flynn were the biggest acquisitions that offseason. Or was that that was the
trade deadline. They picked them up at the trade deadline from Buffalo not in the same trade, 2 separate trades.
Yeah. They were like right after each other. Like, why is this 2 deals?
Why are we doing this? Why have you traded for anyways? Ian, I want to thank you for coming in to do this as a bonus episode on a Friday evening. You can follow Ian on Twitter at Maybe It's Ian. Subscribe to The Build, his podcast. As always, follow us on Twitter at LO_Canadians. Follow myself at Scott Matla. Thank you so much for tuning into this quiz episode, everybody. We will see you all next time.